know about you all, but I'm exhausted all the time lately. There's just so much going on, right? I mean, we are all running on so many cylinders constantly. And not to mention that companies are changing, global economics are complicated, everything seems so challenging and difficult and ever changing, and quite frankly, sometimes even confusing, and maybe for some of us, a little bit scary and uncertain, right? Can you all relate to that? Yeah, right. All right. I'm preaching here because I know we are all feeling it. And I think that sometimes in the rat race of life, women, we hold a lot in. We just naturally do. Some of us are really good at finding our space. I was talking with Patty here, sitting in the hot tub every once in a while, right, Patty? When things get too complicated or too fast and trying to take a beat and slow down. But the reality is most of us are not doing that enough for ourselves. So round of applause for all of you for actually deciding today, yes, I'm going to take lunch. Yes, I'm going to sit with other women. And yes, we're going to talk about accelerating women's well-being. Hi, I'm Vanessa Peace. If I haven't met you already, let's make sure we connect before you all leave. I'm a hugger. And I'm also a mom, a wife, caring for an aging parent. I'm also a seasoned marketer. I've had a blessed, amazing, wonderful career. I've gotten to work in the travel industry, the healthcare industry, in the telecom industry, most recently at a nonprofit. And it's just been so life-giving, but also exhausting. And quite frankly, right now I'm reinventing myself. I'm having, I guess, my midlife crisis, which has been both scary and very exciting. We're here to be authentic and to talk about authentic leadership. So let me share a little bit about myself. I just lost my job a few months ago. Let that sink in. Oh, it felt horrible at the time. It was my second time that it happened. My gut, I felt like I had been punched. My ego was shot. But more importantly, it was my purpose. I felt like I had no more purpose. I had a title. I had a good bank account, right? I felt important. I had people that I led. I had constant meetings from the moment I woke up to the minute I finally logged off, way too late, way past the time I should. And quite frankly, this moment in time now has been just this amazing treasure for me. I've taken the time, finally, with this newfound freedom, to focus on things that really matter to me, to think about what projects or causes I want to take on, and really to reinvent myself, but then consider, what does authentic leadership mean to me? Right? Because leadership doesn't mean that you have a big title in a big company all the time. Now, sometimes it does, Patty, right? Like, that's incredible leadership. And we're all going to meet Patty in a moment. You'll see why I'm pointing her out. But sometimes it also means being a leader in your household, being a leader in your community, being a leader in your family. And if you're not coming from a place that is taken care of, that is really focused on your core values, really what drives you, what motivates you, what makes you happy inside genuinely, like, who's thinking about that, right? Am I happy? I mean, it feels so philosophical and out there, but the reality is it really does matter, right? There's so many things that are changing around us, but one thing's for sure is you can ground yourself in your core strengths. We're going to talk about that today, and you can be an effective, authentic leader. Talk about being authentic. I'm just going to show you. I'm very guilty today of having thought I could wear heels. And I wore beautiful heels, and they were very expensive heels, and they're off now, and I'm back in my running shoes because I'm a better authentic leader when I'm my true self. I have a lot of energy, and I need to move around, and so running shoes is it for me, right? It's just one tiny little example. It's interesting because, first of all, I talked about the restructure, quote unquote, in my organization and how much that hurt. But a little glimmer came to me recently, just last week. I had the pleasure of talking to an old employee of mine. She's not old, she's very young, she's 26. And she reached out to me, and she still works at the organization that I just left. And she asked if, she says, I really need leadership. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not even your boss anymore. And I have no title, right? All the questions I had, she really just wanted to talk to someone and be really true and honest about what was going on in her life. And she talked for about 30 minutes about all the dysfunction that's still going on at the organization I just left. And I let her let it out. And then she said something that actually broke my heart. She said, when you left, I felt like I couldn't be my true self anymore, which really broke my heart. She says, so I've just put my head down and just got the work going, right? I'm just focusing on the work. Just shut up and work, right? Excuse my language because we're recording. And that killed me to my core because this is what I told her. In life, there are bold leaders. There are loud leaders. There are fighter leaders, people who really help organizations and big teams set boundaries and achieve big things. And really, hopefully, if they're authentic leaders, they're bold also in their authenticity, meaning that they show up every day as their true self, whatever matters to them, the causes, helping others, making certain that people feel their true energy. Those bold leaders, they leave a legacy. And I'm going to take a little caveat, because some of us in this room came from Southwest Airlines. Raise your hand. And we were blessed to know Ginger Hardage. And if you've not heard of this amazing, incredible human who just recently passed this Saturday, and I feel she's with us today, she was the boldest leader I'd ever met. And I got to see her shine time and time again because she showed up happy. She didn't need to be the most polished speaker. She didn't need to have the best outfit. She just showed up all Ginger. And we all learned that it was safe to be ourselves, right? That's the point of bold leadership. These bold leaders show us to be feeling safe as ourselves, whoever we are, whatever we show up as. But here's what I also told us. There are many times and many moments in life and in our professions where we need the quiet, authentic leaders, right? That volume is important. Those quiet leaders are shy, perhaps. They don't necessarily show up with the running shoes, loud on the microphone. But guess what? They're seeing the other quiet leaders around. And if they're authentic and they're grounded in their values, they're reaching out. And they're letting others know, maybe there's a lot of turmoil around us, but it is still safe to show up as yourself. It's still safe to talk about the fact that your daughter has a ballet recital. She has a daughter who had a ballet recital this week. I let her know she should tell her leader this, right? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. We have an incredible panel. If you're about to meet them all, but we're going to talk today about the psychology of authentic leadership. So important. We're going to talk about living in your strengths and your core values. And we're going to talk about practical tools in the real world and also in the digital world. And so I am going to, first of all, thank all these panelists. Thank you again. I must thank Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas for hosting us today. Dawn Kale, who is a master of ceremonies, really. My sidekick, she's incredible. She got all this going. Thank you so much. I also want to thank our sponsors, the women we admire. You're seeing them here. If you want more information about it, we've got, tell me your name again. Tammy. Yes. Yes. And they're incredible. Look them up. And so thank you for your sponsorship. Dana Williams Consulting, thank you for your sponsorship and your leadership on this. And now, without further ado, I want to introduce you to our wonderful moderator today. Her name is Patty Escoe. If you've not met her, I know some of you probably know her from working here and have been hoping to meet her. Here she is in the flesh. Patty is Vice President of Texas Plan Operations at Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas. She leads business performance management and operating models. That sounds like a lot of change, continuous change, right? She is charged with enhancing business performance and driving operational excellence. She's the change leader here. She leads the independent dispute resolution, privacy, security, and legislative and regulatory implementation teams. Patty also leads the Texas Plan's Community Affairs team, which includes her role as the president of the Caring Foundation of Texas. Thank you for doing that, Patty, for which Blue Cross and Blue Shields of Texas is a lead sponsor. Under Patty's leadership, the Community Affairs program was recently reorganized, recognized, I've got reorg on the mind, the top corporate social responsibility program in Texas. Woo! Great recognition. She's a strategic thinker with deep industry knowledge. We're about to find all that out today. And she's got apparently a knack for numbers. She produces business results and solves business issues through relationships. Patty is known as a transparent, authentic leader who is open to all perspectives and openly shares and listens to ideas. She's focused on teaching and mentoring. We're all about to learn from her and the rest of the panelists. And we're so grateful to pass the mic on to her so that she can introduce the panelists. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. And thank you, all of you, for joining us today. I hope that if nothing else, you gather one nugget from what we talk about today, and take that away from this meeting today. There's collaboration today, but is the collaboration. We will give you opportunity to do some Q&A later. But before we get started, I want to have the panelists introduce themselves so that you understand from their perspective where they're coming from. So let's start with Dr. Stephanie Grossman.
We get to go? Check 1, 2. Good morning. It is so good to see everyone. My name is Stephanie Grossman. I am a licensed psychologist and certified eating disorder specialist. I own a private practice, Dakota Therapy Consulting. We specialize in working mainly with eating disorders, self-esteem, body image, and in the LGBTQ plus population. So it's myself, and then I bring on predoctoral supervisees. I also do a lot of trainings when it comes to just helping folks in different organizations navigate how to make the environment more inclusive, or really how to uplift and encourage your employees, or really yourselves too, so from that compassion space. And I'm currently on the International Association of Eating Disorder Professionals. I'm a member at large for U.S. chapters on the international board, and then the DFW chapter president. So I'm honored to be here with y'all. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie. And how about you, Dana?
Yes, I'm Dana Williams, and after 25 years in corporate, I started noticing a trend. And this trend was that leaders were performing and not leading. And there was this whole movement around, who am I? You heard Vanessa's story about who I can't be myself. And I have started this whole movement around authentic leadership. And it's called Internal Revolution. And I've been working in the last 5 years with corporate leaders and teams and organizations to help them know and feel and be their unique self at work. Because when we're our unique self, we're our most authentic. We don't have to perform. It's just be us. Whether you want to wear tennis shoes or show up in just whoever you are, that's what we want. And so one of the tools I use is Clifton Strengths, but we're going to talk about some of that today. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dana. And last but not least, Lauren, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Lauren McKinnon. I'm the founder and CEO of Project Mockingbird, and we're a social impact PR agency here in Dallas, but working across the nation. I'm here today really as a PR and comms kind of lens into all of this because I care deeply about women in the workforce. I'm a former corporate girly. I still pretend to be corporate. My team is not, but I am. They finally got me on Google Docs and all the things. So just so y'all know, I'm cool now. But I really just, we'll talk a little bit about personal branding, obviously, and putting what you do, right? I do PR and comms, but what I care about is women in the workforce and putting those things together. I have 3 daughters, 3 female dogs, 10 employees that are all women, and I'm just happy to be here today.
Well, great. Thank you. Today, we're going to learn about how our past has kept us from living authentically from Dr. Stephanie Grossman. We have Dana, who's going to share how we can apply our unique talents. We all have unique talents. We all have similarities, but we all have unique talents. And for now and into the future, how do we use those unique talents? Lauren's going to demonstrate Lauren's experience is going to demonstrate how our past and our present can guide us to be more authentic in the workplace and in the future. My first question is going to go to Stephanie. From a psychologist's perspective, what does it mean to live intentionally, and why is it crucial to authentic leadership?
Absolutely. So I view living intentionally as really being aware of your values. And when you are making decisions, when you're stepping into a room, really making sure that those values are really informing so much of, again, the decisions, the step-ins, everything that you're doing. If you know really what matters to you, and so a lot of times when we're talking about that, we're not just saying this part of like, oh, family, friends, a job, but really the nitty gritty of it. Like, so that space of, I loved how you pointed out, I have energy, I want to walk around. My value is I appreciate being able to move and connect and all those pieces. So when you decide high heels versus shoes next time, right? That space there of it really, when you live with intentionality, it really almost makes some of these decisions easier. When we think about that past part, I really love to look at it where, with regards to almost thinking about the past preventing you, more almost the past informing you of how you want to live intentionally. So when we think about, for example, like I am very open about I have ADHD. If you talk to me in everyday life, you'll know that. I'm like, squirrel, it's super cool. Okay, back to what you're saying, right? And that space there of when I think about embracing just that space, like I view ADHD as a superpower with regards to I can come up with all of the coolest ideas. I want to connect with you, and I will, and it's amazing. And I walk into a room and a lot of times people are like, oh, Stephanie's here. Like we have like such energy and it's awesome. And of course I do, because I have 5 really cool songs playing in my head at all times. I have the best jukeboxes. That stated, it also means that when I get on a stage, I am very aware that I can go off on tangents, that I can lose myself, that I can, and if I do that, I get so anxious, right? And so when I think about, for me, living intentionally is making sure, honestly, if I don't have a screen behind me, I bring my little notebook with me to keep me a little bit on track, because I would much rather think about my goal of coming into this presentation isn't to feel anxious about, did I say something that they connected with? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I get lost? But it's to connect with each of you and to have it be where y'all take something from this. And so when I choose, do I step into this and just show up as myself kind of without like almost a filter, or do I bring my notebook and take time before I come in and jot some things down? It makes that decision a lot easier, right? And even that space there too of, and I love kind of connecting with this, and I'm so happy to see all the notes up here, because sometimes, does anyone heard of imposter syndrome? Does anyone? Okay, yeah, so everyone's like, heck yes. And so, yeah, I love like raise hands, yes. But that space there of even when there's, at least for me, again, kind of speaking from my own experience, and a lot of what I work with clients and colleagues, is sometimes that pops in and sometimes makes making choices based on what you know works for you and what you know actually helps you show up with the values of, for me, again, connecting. I want to be able to be funny without thinking, oh my gosh, did that joke just get me in a tangent? Did that space there of when you're able to own some of these pieces and even talk about things thinking authentically, right? Like, yes, we all have imposter syndrome at times, and it's okay to put that out there because it lets you actually do the things that intentionally help you hold the values you're wanting to hold. And one of the reasons that's important with regards to authentic leadership is if you are so worried about that space of how do I make these decisions? What should I do? It's hard to walk into a room and feel connected. And if you're not knowing your values and really making choices and decisions based on them consistently, people around you also are not going to see that you're consistent, that you're trustworthy, so it almost helps you be more respected as a leader, right? That space of if you consistently know who you are and make choices based on it. And so when I think about the importance of living intentionally, that really also connects with that space of being an authentic leader, because it can earn respect and also just make life easier to make decisions.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'd like to take a little moment here and share a little bit of story from my perspective about living intentionally. For those of you who are in the room, I see a lot of my peers and colleagues here. You may have already heard this story, so just bear with me for a second. But 4 weeks ago today, my daughter gave birth. And she had asked me during the birth for both of her children to help her through labor and delivery. So I was helping her through labor, through the delivery, everything with the doctor. And so when she called me on a Wednesday and she's like, I think I'm having contractions. And I'm like, okay, well, wait till 11 o'clock at night. Here I am coaching her. Wait till 11 o'clock at night and tell me, how things are feeling. I'm waiting up all night. Put my earrings in, put my makeup on. I'm getting ready to go to the hospital. She doesn't call me back. She doesn't text me. And so I'm a little concerned, right? And so I'm already trying to sleep. Have you ever slept like this? Right? And so she finally texts me in the morning and I'm like, she hasn't called me. I'm getting up. I'm coming to the work. I got to do something at work. And she calls me. She says, I'm on the way to the hospital. I'm like, okay. How far along are the contractions? I'm walking her through all of this, right? They're in Chick-fil-A line, getting something to eat. And I question why she's eating before she's going into delivery. She's like, well, if I don't eat now, I'm not going to eat later. So her water breaks in the car. Her water breaks in the car and her husband's like, give me the chicken. He didn't want the chicken to get wet. But in either case, yeah, that's exactly what he said. But so she's like, okay, I'm on my way there. But that evening, You heard Vanessa indicate that my team was being nominated for an award. That night on Thursday, we were supposed to go to the award ceremony and determine if we were going to be a winner. I intentionally made a decision to go and be with my daughter, who asked me to help her through labor and delivery. This is my third labor and delivery with my daughter and my daughter-in-laws, but she intentionally asked me that. Well, through delivery, so I text my team and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to make it tonight. I made a business choice, right, to not be there. I made a personal choice to be with my daughter. When we were talking through the delivery and the labor of it, I guess, more around labor, she's like, Mom, do you remember when we did this? Mm-mm. Do you remember when we did this? Do you remember when we were sad? She was going through all these things from a memory of when she was a child. She's like, well, you were there. I was there present for her. I wasn't there emotionally for her. At that time, I was focused on my career. I don't remember some of those things that she remembers, even though I was there with her at her golf tournaments when she played for college and a variety of different things. So not knowing that until after delivery, and I'd already made my decision to go with her, made me feel that I was truly being my authentic self at that time, that I wanted to be focused on my career at the time. I wanted to be focused on my family later in life. And I think that's important. You have to know what your intentions are. Where do you focus your time? And I've told many of the people that I've mentored, people that are on my team, finding that work-life balance is key. That doesn't mean 50-50. Today it might be, I tell you, I flew in at 11 o'clock last night, got here at 6:30 or 7 this morning to work on something that has to be done by 2 today. So between last night and today, my focus was on that work. When I get off tonight, I'm going to sit in the spa and have a couple of wine glasses, and I'm going to focus on me. And I think you have to be intentional about your time, what you're doing, and the choices you make as leaders and helping those that you are mentoring up. So I wanted to share that little story with you because it has taken me a while. I've been here 28 years. It's taken me a while to learn that. And through your career, you will find that things are different and your focus and your challenges are different. So just wanted to share that little story with you from my perspective about living intentionally. Stephanie, I'd also love to hear your perspective about how women leaders can embrace themselves holistically while managing the pressure and to compartmentalize different aspects of their life.
Absolutely. I think you just did such a great job of pointing out just a salient example of where our personal and professional lives, they really, even if they feel separate, they're in many ways not. Like that space of a business decision and a personal decision really are so intersected. And so one of the things that I think can be really important is that space of knowing what your values are and embracing that it's okay that they change over time, priorities change, but almost actually doing an assessment of that. It's really interesting of a lot of times, I think when I'm working with clients that I'll ask what matters to you, and it's just kind of this general thing of like, oh, family, friends, work. But again, really what we want to know a little bit more is like that nitty gritty of, I heard you say that part of, I was showing up places, but I wasn't present. And that in itself is a value, right? I want to be able to be present. I want to be connecting with the moment, and I want to be able to be there. And so that part of really noticing in interactions, in work, as whatever your role is, as also a mother, as a wife, as a partner, as a friend, how is it that you actually want to show up in those relationships, in those settings? And so really, again, kind of looking at just the nitty gritties in that space. And I think something, since it can be a little bit daunting sometimes to feel like, oh, like, you know, what is it that matters to me? It can be really helpful when we think about bringing that past in. If you can think of whether it be a supervisor, a parent, like a friend who's a parent, a colleague, or whatever it is, right, an identity in that space, and think about what was it that made her, what was it that made them the person that, like, I'm like, yeah, that was amazing. I really connected. I like that. And actually, instead of just viewing them kind of as like a person, really, what is it that you liked about them? Like, I think about one of my favorite humans, both in a work setting and in a personal setting, one of the things that I strive for value-wise is she was so amazing at empowering everyone around her. It was like, if you had an idea, you walked up, she's like, well, you might want to think about this, but if you want to try that, let's go ahead. If it doesn't work, we'll readjust. And it was amazing at just how confident she made you feel. And that, to me, when I think about how I step into a room, I want it to be that one of my values is that people around me know that I want you to feel empowered also, that I have faith in you, that I support you, and so what does that look like, right, in that space? And so really kind of thinking about some of those smaller pieces there that really potentially help you feel not as much you're compartmentalizing because you're able to show up a little more consistently across the board. The other part with that would be too, is that aspect of, has anyone heard of like the term tribe, like finding your tribe? That kind of like the new like buzz phrase, right? But that is so vital, y'all. As a psychologist, one of the things that almost any mental health disorder, like we see across the board, one of the things that actually helps maintain recovery from whether it be like eating disorders, substance use, anxiety, is social support. That's the same just in everyday life, right? If we're thinking about how do we find balance, how is it that when there's a birth of a kiddo that you go and you feel comfortable saying, hey, I'm not going to be here? Part of that is having a tribe that is going to be supportive in that. And so that part of finding your people at work that you feel safe around, that spot of whether it's the people that can let you wear whatever shoes, or like personally for me, like, I'm engaged, my fiance is a woman. And so it's really important to me that I can be around people that I know I can talk about her identities or kind of who she is without being anxious about if I say she, is that going to create a space that's feeling a fear of judgment? Or we also talked about when we were prepping for this panel, one of the other panelists who was talking about like her kiddo having a disability and just how that space is with regards to just how it can feel really isolating and alone to have people maybe not understand how I might need to answer this phone. I might need to like take a leave. And so when you have people around you, finding your tribe, because it makes it easier. If at work you are feeling more isolated, knowing that you don't have to just have work itself to have kind of the people you find, it can be, you maybe get involved with an organization like Women We Admire, right? Shout out there. Or just any type of professional or personal organization that lets you feel that you have the ability and support to hold your values and live intentionally, not have to compartmentalize as much.
Great. So Dana, I have a question for you. Now that we understand how we need to look at ourselves from a psychological standpoint, how do we identify our unique talents and our strengths?
Oh, that's a great question. Can y'all hear me okay? One of the things I think we do, you've heard this probably your whole life, is comparison is a thief of joy. We try to compare ourselves to other people. And this internal work is hard, but it's so powerful. So there's 3 things I think you can do, whether you know your Clifton strengths or one of your other assessments. There's 3 things you can do to really understand your unique talents. The first one is, I want you to look back at your calendar, and I want you to think about, look at all the activities you had in the last 2 weeks. Put a circle around the things that gave you energy. Put a square around the things that drained you. That's your first clue. Those things with the circle, that is your sweet spot. Those are the things we want you to do more of, right? The second thing I want you to think about, what do people come for you to do? What is something that you so easily do and you don't even think about it? And people might come to you, Stephanie, or you, Patty, or you, Lauren. They just come to you and you're like, I don't even think about it. I just do this. It's just the thing I do. Well, that's a gift. That's a talent. And the third thing is, what is the thing that is so hard for somebody else but so easy for you? For example, my assistant is an amazing organizer and I am not. And I am like, I'll have the vision, I'll point out the strategy, but she loves taking all the pieces and organizing that. That is not my gift. And if I try to do that, I'm going to be so drained. So here's the key I want y'all to remember. It's not about managing your time. It's about managing your energy. That's the key. But in order to manage your energy, you got to know what your unique talents are. And that's not from something external. It's from within. So that's my bandwagon I'm on.
Well, great. Lauren, we've talked about, knowing ourselves now, identifying our unique talents. How do we authentically communicate that to the world?
The first thing how I wanted to answer this was sort of, I'm listening to all of y'all and you've said almost everything can be said. So I'm going to go off my script here. So many people think about a personal brand. Does anyone actually really even know what is a personal brand, right? Anybody kind of like, oh, I know. Not many of us. It really is how you've made someone feel that you've just interacted with. So everyone kind of said that, but I want to lie. I'm the comms person. So here's some bullet points. I'm going to summarize our panel today, but it is really when that person left for the day and whoever you met today, what did they say about you to their spouse? They did not say what you wore. They did not say your hair color. They did not say what your job title is. They said something else, right? That is ultimately the goal, is to have a personal brand that once you've met 10 people around town, they're all kind of saying the same thing. Like, I met Lauren and da-da-da-da. They might have noticed my pink blazer, but only because they've had a meaningful or positive interaction. So I want to say that's one thing I would say. We say that to all of our clients. They come to us and they think, I need to know how to dress. I need to know my talking points. And we're like, no, what energy are you giving right now? Like, that's foundational. So that's number one. And when you think about communicating, I'll also give some bullet points on just some easy things. Finding your strengths, finding all your talents, everything that the panel is saying. I'd also add, write it down, right? We have like a little worksheet that I always keep near me. And I give this to my kids before the first day of school as well. But it's your values, your expertise, your personal intentions, like what are you trying to do in the world, your visual style, and you could say bold or subdued or anything, and your personal story. And all of those things, when you get to the point where you're like, I'm moving on in my career, I want to post on LinkedIn, I want to post on Instagram, I want to post on Facebook, check your little sheet, check your strengths. Are you talking about things you're good at? Or are you just talking because you read an article and it's trending, right? I think that's really important. So I'm kind of a fan when you're building your personal brand of having your little cheat sheet of bullet points. And that's where your authenticity is going to come in, checking that LinkedIn post against who you really are. And I'll give an example. We did a leadership retreat with a nonprofit here in Dallas. And these women at this retreat and several men were, as we say, doing the Lord's work. I mean, just the most amazing work. And there's a woman I met there. And I mean, she had the most quotable, expert things to say. She wasn't afraid to say them. I was thinking if we were like going down on the Titanic, she'd be who saved it. I mean, this woman knew her business, okay? And she emailed me that night and she said, can you go look at my LinkedIn and give me some pointers? And I was shocked. I was like, oh, I mean, her LinkedIn, she doesn't mind me telling this story, by the way. We're friends now. I mean, there was a dandelion, like a filtered image from the 80s. It just wasn't a bold, it was not who I met that day. So from a comms personal brand perspective, when you're kind of just, after you've done the inner work, really think about how you're showing up on LinkedIn, in email, in meetings. And we all should look different. None of us should look the same. None of us. I'll never meet another woman like that. I should meet different women all the time, right? And then just leaning into that on all of your profiles and things.
So Lauren, you talk about that from an online perspective, right? In our brand and our personal brand. Sometimes it's easy for us to, post it up there like the lady that you ran into, and then we forget about it, right? We forget about it. So what are some key things to maintaining authenticity while we're building our presence online and in our professional settings?
I would say two things, just two. Consistency. You need to put on your calendar, I need to post once a week. If you're trying to do that, if you are really trying to get on LinkedIn or wherever, you need to be posting consistently. If people hear from you once a year, you're not on their radar. So posting consistently, it's not supernatural for most of us. Again, you don't have to be talking about your feelings, and you are talking about what value you're bringing. So I would say that's number one. And number two, a question we get a lot from our clients who, I'll use the word shy, but, humble, reserved. My eldest is painfully humble and reserved, and shy. And they want to make sure they're not adding to the noise online and just talking to talk, because that is something that personality type they're annoyed by, and they notice it. And so we say, there's noise, but if you're focused on making real impact, that's what will shape the industry and shape your culture. Ginger Hardage is a great example. She didn't talk about airlines. She shaped the culture of airlines. So that's, I think, is the goal for anyone with a personal brand. Don't just comment. Don't be in the comments. Be someone who moves the conversation forward.
Thank you, Lauren. Great advice for me personal, because I do often just do like.
Yeah, we're all guilty. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm taking that personally. So Dana, you talked a little bit about internal revolution.
Yeah.
Can you tell us really what does that mean for women leaders, and how does it build on the foundation of self-awareness?
So this goes back to looking externally for everything. And really the hard work is doing the work with a psychologist or a counselor. I had the challenge 17 years ago of going through a really hard time in my marriage. And it was through that rock bottom that I realized I was performing and I wasn't really living my authentic self. And I had to go find that authentic self with the work of doing life maps and really kind of figuring out what were the patterns I had in my past that I don't want to carry into my future. What are those things that I carried from my past that I'm holding on to that I don't need to hold on to? And these are things that were role modeled for my mom or her mom, or, we carry them on. And so really it's like looking at that and doing the deep work. And this is why I like strengths, because I think it really helps you hold on to something that says, this is your uniqueness. And once I learned that uniqueness and learned that I was 1 in 33 million, which all of you are, and I think we talked about how unique you are, then be that, and be that every day. And that's where the energy came. And so when I found, strengths was part of it, understanding my core values, learning and spending time with what I call your virtual board of directors. Ginger was on my virtual board of directors. I can hardly talk about her today without getting weepy. But she was somebody 35 years ago. I said, we became close friends, and she said, I'm going to be your lifeline. And so from the time we started work together, we were in different roles until even when I started my business, she was always there at my virtual roundtable. So who's at your virtual roundtable that you can reach out to, that are those people like a Ginger, like a finance person, like a mentor, coach, psychologist? Who are those people around you? This is deep work, and it's not easy, and that's why it's an internal revolution, because you're working hard on yourself. I do have little sayings. Here's my saying here: changing me changes everything. When I worked on myself and I stopped trying to control all these other people, and I stopped trying to people please, and I stopped trying to be codependent, I was like, wow, there's some freedom here. And all of a sudden, the freedom broke open, and I was me, and I became me, and I surrounded myself with people that helped me be my best self every day, and that were at that virtual board of directors. They didn't know who each other were because it was all virtual, but I would pick up the phone and call them. Becky's one of the other ones here in the audience. I will call her and say, I got this going on. Becky's going through cancer. She's amazing. She's always positive. I can always rely on her to make me happy. And so who are those people? You are the sum of the people you hang out with every day. Who are you hanging out with? And that's, again, why it's hard. It's hard, but the freedom is there.
Thank you, Dana. Stephanie, can you share with us kind of some go-to strategies for helping women maintain their authentic selves while navigating a demanding professional environment?
Absolutely. So I love what everyone is saying here. I'm going to try to channel my inner Lauren and be succinct. So one thing that can be really helpful, y'all, is going off what everyone's saying about energy, and that being something that is almost, if we can view it more through this very limited, we've run out of energy, or if we're at the end of the day and we just don't have any left, we're not able to show up at home or wherever you're going as your best authentic self in that space. One thing that you can do, actually, just homework wise, and my partner and I actually do this in our own life too, but I recommend it to clients, I have friends that do it, is if you wake up so looking at the month before you, if you sit down at the beginning of the month and take a look at what's going on for you that month, what you can actually do is try to notice, one, are there going to be weeks that have a lot going on, and already starting to note if there's anything going on in those weeks that is going to be really energy zapping already. So if we're looking at like the circling, or just kind of knowing that there might be a stressful presentation or a stressful interaction coming up, that week we want to put less things on the schedule. And so what you can actually do is, with spoon theory is what this is called, is if you decide that, and just kind of using a number that is easy to work with, every day you wake up on average with 10 spoons and 10 spoons of energy, right? You can take a look and decide, over the course of the day, I'm going to give 3 energy spoons potentially to like this particular task at work. I want to make sure that I have 4 energy spoons for one of my many grandkiddos. I want to make sure. And so really being able to note where you're wanting to be intentional about putting your energy. And when you're doing that, you can do that on a daily basis. But you can also, again, over the course of a week, notice this day, if I'm needing to have a serious conversation at some point this week, this day already, I know that there's a lot going on. So I'm going to be intentional about putting that energy zapping thing on another day. And so literally writing, and I love the writing it down, writing this out. So you can do daily, weekly, and monthly. And it really can help with just noticing if there's exhaustion popping up, that maybe you might need to be moving things around a little bit more. Or if you're realizing that, say, if you're going to work and that it is that you're like, yeah, like I am realizing I am just putting so much energy into trying to get people to like me or whatever it is, that might actually be something that we sit down and figure out, how do I take energy from that and not be putting that in there anymore if I'm not wanting to give it as many energy spoons. So being really intentional about that. And just again, it sounds like kind of echoing what everyone's saying too, that part of y'all finding your tribe, finding your people, your support system, that virtual roundtable is so vital and important. That really is going to be what lets you kind of stay true to that intentionality. And then just final thing, just making sure when it comes to some specific strategies, one thing you can do too is just looking at the end of the day, what are 3 things over the course of the day that you did that was you really showing up intentionally and authentically. And if you're struggling to think of that, it might mean you really need to do a reassessment of what are your values and how you're showing up in relation to them.
Thank you so much. I wanted to share another thought as well, that over my career, what I have seen from a workplace is how you influence others. And I think, Lauren, this kind of touches a little bit with what you were saying, is influence is important in our organization. Many of us now work in a very matrixed environment. And that influence that you have on others is extremely important. Showing up intentionally, knowing that you're going to influence a decision, that you're going to influence something else that's happening in that particular meeting, is important to what you're doing. But you have to be authentic. If you're going to be influential, you have to be authentic. Lauren, one other comment that you talked about is our personal brand. And one of the things you also mentioned was around mentoring. One of the things that I think about, the difference between a mentor and a sponsor, right? The sponsor does similarly to what you were talking about on your personal brand. When I left that meeting, what are they saying about me? Your sponsor, if you have a sponsor, is talking about you in a positive note when you're not in the room. So when they need something, my sponsor, I don't know, would say, Patty can do that. That just happened this week. Patty can handle that for you. Patty can do this, or Patty can do the job. When you have a sponsor, they're talking about you, and it's because of the brand that you have already established. And I think that's key. Let's build on the idea of one of the questions for Dana. What's one practical tool attendees today can use this week to start building their authentic leadership from within?
I love what you just said about the sponsor and the mentor. And I think if we think of, we're always sponsoring somebody or mentoring somebody below us and above us. So I want you all to think, whether you have the title leadership or not, that's the brand you can carry, because you might be leading your family, you might be leading a nonprofit, you might be leading a volunteer group. And so one of the most simplest things that I can think of that you can do today is really think about your unique talent. And I think what we've all talked about today is the core values. Know your core values. Most people, when I say, raise your hand if you know your core values, most people don't in the room. They know they have them, but they don't know what they are. So we do exercises with our leadership groups and help them identify those. And then we have them develop their mission statement. Most of you probably don't have a personal mission statement. Most organizations have a personal mission statement. Your personal mission statement is what guides you. And then what is really dynamic is when you get in the room and you work, whether it's in your organization or in your family. We have my husband and I have our family mission statement. But it's, what are you doing to use your strengths, use your core values, use your mission statement to help make a difference and to make an impact? What I've seen recently with teams I've worked with is all of a sudden they get clarity. I had one leader reach out recently. She goes, oh my gosh, the teams are so clear now, because they can tie their meaningful work of what they're about to the work of the organization. And so we call this authentic imprint, because it's that imprint you're leaving. It's exactly what everybody here is talking about, because your personal brand is in the room, whether you've decided you're going to have one or not. So how are you going to be intentional? There's a quick little 3-minute assessment you can do that's in your bag. You can do at home, and you can see where you are on authentic leadership. And I would encourage all of you guys to go do that. And you can completely just assess and see where you are. And it's just a simple way that's one thing you can do and take home today. So.
Thank you, Dana. Now, we're getting close to the end, but before we get to the Q&As, I do want to ask Lauren one more thing. From your perspective, how do women leaders, how do we ensure our authentic voice creates the meaningful impact that Dana just talked about? And you talked a little bit about your brand, but how do we ensure our authentic voice creates the meaningful impact rather than just adding to the noise that you were talking about earlier?
I think, again, noise fills space, impact changes it. If you want a personal brand, which probably everyone here does, that's why you're here, you've got to focus on what's different that I'm bringing. What is the added value? First of all, I do want to say, it has never occurred to me to schedule out my energy in this way. I sort of thought it's fine to crash for 2 days and not talk to people. So thank you for that gift. Both of you really helped me a lot. I'm gonna have to watch the recording because I couldn't take notes. So thinking about all those things building into this, I think so. Again, focus on what's different about you, but really you don't do that by focusing on yourself. You focus on what does this group need. And then the other thing that's sort of basic, and I, again, talk to my daughters about this, but there are kind of two types of people in the world, in my view, and people who wake up and go, wonder what will happen today. And then people who wake up and go, what am I going to make happen today? And so even just coming into this room today, half of you maybe set an intention to maybe meet one more person or have a couple takeaways. And then some of you maybe didn't, and that's fine. But that's something that you sort of, in my view, have to train yourself to do, to set a real intention, to use the favorite word of the day. Intentionality is everything. And it does not, all of us should have different intentions. None of us should be the same.
Absolutely. So we'd love to hear from those of you in the room and those of you online as well. But I'd like to start with the room. Are there any questions for any of the panelists here in the room? Yeah, we've got one. We're gonna pass a mic if you can just wait so that those that are online can hear us. Okay, thank you.
right. All right. And please state your name as well.
I
Thank
will.
you.
Do you mind? Because I wanted to kind of face everyone here real quick. So thank you again. I love the panel format, by the way. You need me to move this way? Oh, okay. Where's the camera? Oh, back there. Okay. So my name is Tammy Gorman. I am the Women We Admire chapter, one of the chapter leads for Austin, Texas. I couldn't make it to this event here in Dallas in March, so I've been really looking forward to making it to this one. So I've been with Teradata Corporation for 24 years. So my industry is the tech sector. And one thing that I am really passionate about is how we try to do a better job in an industry where the mix of male to female is like, 90-10. The relationships that I've made with some of my female leaders have been some of the very best, like mentor relationships, supportive relationships. And so one thing that I can tell you that we don't do well in the Austin chapter right now, we have just the pedigree of the women who are involved in Women We Admire there is stellar. It's incredible, but we've not been able to get together in an event like this. And so part of me coming here was to try to understand how we set that up. So I've already gotten a ton of great ideas with that, but here's where I'm going with my question. The company went through a major riff in June and got rid of an entire group of people, right? So we've all kind of gotten together. I was affected in that as well. And what I've been learning as I've stayed in touch with my team is that most of the men counterparts have gotten much further in their job interviews, and a couple of them are very close to having offers. And I spent about an hour on my drive down this morning talking to probably one of the most talented women that I've ever worked with. She's written a book since she got riffed in June, right? A go-getter. She needed something to do. She just, focusing herself. And so she's trying to self-publish this book. But she's had like 20 interviews and she's not getting further than that. And the feedback she keeps getting, and this isn't isolated, by the way. The other females that have been impacted are, they're not a perfect fit and they're getting passed over. And so what it brings me back to is, this is now my question. How do we as women leaders do a better job in being very intentional in how we build connections and networking with other women in the industry? I don't want us to only think about it when we're applying for a job, or that we don't think about it that much at all when we have a stable job, right? I would really like to hear some ideas from people who you've worked at companies where it works really well. What do y'all do? What do y'all see that is working where we can be better kind of intentional support structure for other women in our respective industries? So that's my question.
So let's start with the panel. And then if anyone in the room has something to add, please raise your hand and I'll bring the mic.
I think, Dana, that one's for you.
Yeah. I just talked to someone who wrote a book called Experience is Not Enough. And I said, okay, tell me what's going on in the workplace right now. And what are some things that people can do that are, because it takes 6 months to get a job, about 6 months. And the networking is important. Your LinkedIn presence, your authenticity is important. But she gave me the story about this one guy who went on LinkedIn. He studied the companies that he wanted to work at. And then he studied the people on LinkedIn who had similar background as him. And he reached out and said, hey, I've got 3 boys too. Hey, I worked in Japan also. Hey, I love football. Let's connect. And they started connecting. And the next thing you know, he's getting an interview. And he said, I know how to work in Japan. I've done this. I know how to go into culture. So he found a unique way through LinkedIn to get in and connect with other people in that organization and then start. So just going and networking and just calling all of your friends is one thing, and that's good. But you want to make sure what you're saying online, and this is where Lauren's expertise comes in, matches what you're doing and that kind of job of the person they want. And so many times I see that so disconnected. Yeah. So anybody else have anything?
I would just add one thing. That's a trend too that we're seeing as far as even younger generations, Gen Z coming up. People do, as much as all of us with all these great experiences and degrees would love for people to hire us based on that. They don't care. I'm going to give an example. What I just noticed about you, you said your tech company name. I don't know what it is. I heard you worked in tech, but I didn't hear your company. I saw a woman who grabbed the microphone and walked up to the front and asked this really vulnerable question. And if someone asked me about you, I would say, I don't know, but you should hire her. Like, so I don't know your friend, but like people have to have that kind of just moment. You know what I mean? The expertise is not enough. But I will say one more thing to really, speaking of the patriarchy, women, we have to do a better job of championing each other, and we have to decide to do it. I mean, we really do. Oftentimes we're functioning in a scarcity mindset, especially in the tech industry where it's predominantly male. So you really building ERG groups, building groups, you know, different things. You kind of just have to decide to be there for each other and support each other.
Thank you for that. That was the heart of my question.
Yeah.
How can we, I've loved this, the energy in this room is amazing. So this was very nourishing for me today. But I think that it can't be an afterthought. Like how can we all be very, very supportive of a strong female talent community when we're not attending a luncheon and help other women specifically? That's truly where my passion is.
Yeah.
And I think too, getting an accountability partner that you have, I would build your virtual board of directors of people that, because you probably know 250 people and they know 250 people. And it just multiplies. Instead of you going out into the wild blue going, where do I go? Start with those 250 people. And that's a networking kind of tool. But then who's on that board of directors and how often are you going to meet with them and how often are you going to get together and help them be your accountability partner? Like Ann's one of my best friends at work who's also an accountability partner. And we, through ups and downs of our lives and different careers and things, we've always stayed and kept that connection because we're not always getting what we want from the wild. But when we can get it from our friends and from our sponsors and our coaches, then we start belonging. Is that what I'm hearing? Did that help answer? I think you were touching on it, but you had said something earlier today that struck me that give your story about y'all were touching base weekly regardless.
Yeah.
When you weren't setting this up.
Oh, that's right.
So let me add to that. And then we have a great question online because we're live streaming if you didn't remember. And we'd love to give those people online also an opportunity. But yes, first of all, I love the question so much. And I'll give you one little other anecdote to everything you all have said is I chose to be really vulnerable today with you all and tell you I got, recycled out of my job. I also actually used ChatGPT and wrote a very thoughtful message that I posted on LinkedIn. And then I posted it and then I started to bite my nails and said, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. I just told the whole professional world, everybody I'm connected to and who they're connected to about having lost my job. And the wonderful thing is the amount of people that I knew and that I didn't even know who didn't just react, but DM'd me. Is that the term we're using nowadays? DM'd me, sharing opportunities, sharing like, hey, I went through this also, men and women. I was so impressed. So I think, again, being authentic and being brave and saying, I'm going to let the world know what's going on with me and that I'm on the lookout and who knows what's going to come of it, right? And so that's another thought. But we have a great question. I'm going to read it out from our live audience who's streaming. Since we've addressed social media positioning, how do we also position ourselves in real life to be open to opportunities for impact on panels, during conferences, etc.? In the same strain, how do we gain access or connections to mentors without having a formed network in the process of building a larger social media presence? And that goes back to what you're talking about, meeting and continuously creating this opportunity. So if anyone on this panel has an idea about that.
I have an idea that I do. This might be helpful, especially for someone who maybe you find yourself in a new town or a new job or you're fresh out of college. I actually have a virtual board of directors of women and men that I will never meet. There's no chance I'll ever meet them. And that can be very helpful. So that's like, if you ask for an idea, that's a real idea. I mean, they're on a piece of paper. And when I'm stuck on something, I think, well, what would they do? I could say their names, but you'll start laughing. You'll go, what? Who is this person? And they're all there for a reason. And so that's an idea almost to just sort of get yourself out of some of these moments that you're stuck in. Well, what do I do? Who am I? All the things. Particularly if you're navigating a new job, new coworkers, all the things. Dawn is on my real life board of directors, but she doesn't know Oprah's on the other. So that's an idea, very silly, but certainly it works, I promise.
Yeah, I think create your community, find their community. There's a lot of ways, and I know you all have communities within here at Blue Cross Blue Shield, correct, Patty? So it's don't be shy, don't be afraid, step out, take action, because I heard this recently from the woman that's helping me finish my book, and her husband's Norwegian. He says at the end of the day, are you satisfied with today? Instead of how was your day, are you satisfied? So did you step out? Did you step out in action and ask to meet with a group? There's so many organizations like Women We Admire, people like that you can get involved with. But I think it's stepping out and thinking and asking them, if you were me, what would you do? I am trying to meet new people right now. Who do you know who is the thing we want to say? Who do you know who can lead me to this?
And they don't always have to be in the same category as you.
Yeah, where's the mic? Oh, there we go.
Yeah. I reached out probably 20 years ago. I reached out 20 years ago, and I was actually in a Bible study group with these strong women, and I picked 5 that weren't necessarily in my group. They were leaders, and they were single moms. I was a single mom at the time, and so they were single moms, and they were leaders. And I knew, like, they're all pretty. I'm in nonprofit, and they're nonprofit leaders. And except for one, she's an attorney. And so we've been together for 20 years. They're part of this little network. And we used to meet every other week. We probably meet once a month, but we still hold each other accountable. What are you doing? I'll call them and say, hey, I need you guys. We got to think about this. I want to pray about this. What about this issue? What about this issue? And they're all leaders and strong women. And they also very much know me and my strengths now because we've been together for so long. And we've all been through now divorce and death and career changes and career advances. And now we're looking at where are we going to slow down and what do we want to do, if we want to consult and that kind of stuff. So I think sometimes you look around and you think, who's doing it that you admire? And you think, I want them to be a part of my group. And back then we didn't have virtual. So it must be, I would think it'd be easier now because we would have to, now it's getting harder and harder for us to meet, but we continue to do it. But yeah, I just look around and say, who is really kicking it? And what do I have to learn from them? Some are a little bit older than me. One's a little bit younger. And I'm just so grateful for them. They have literally advanced my career. And of course, Dana's on one of my boards as well. So
I have a feeling Dana's on a lot of people's boards. We have another thought and question here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I tell folks and even myself that you have to be intentional about mapping your network. So think about like Dana talked about your vision. What's your vision statement? What are your goals? And whatever those goals are, whether they're internal to your company or they're external, like you might be looking for something else down the road, map your network. Who do you currently know? So if it's within your company, what types of people do you need to know within your company to be impactful? Because you're not going to have time to develop those relationships on that initiative. You need to already know those folks to be influential when that project comes up, right? You're not going to develop those relationships because you're going to have to deliver that project fast. Same with, you're not going to develop those relationships when you're looking for a job, right? You need to already have those. Or when you're ready to move on and do something else. And so think about it, map your network, acknowledge where you have gaps, and then schedule on your calendar whether it's Thursday mornings or Friday mornings, coffees or lunches, where can you squeeze in and hold true to yourself? Don't let that off your calendar. Every Thursday or once a month, I'm going to branch out and have coffee with someone that I don't usually have coffee with, and just push yourself out of your comfort zone. That's what I try to do. And I think it really pushes me out of staying in the same groups I have at work, or staying in the same groups that I have even outside of work.
And I just want to congratulate everyone who's here, because in essence, that's what we're doing here, right? We decided to take some time out of our busy schedules to be with people we may know or not necessarily know. So what can we get out of that, right? Who else now can you add to your board of directors or your virtual board? So if there's no other questions, and there is, wonderful.
Thank you. Helen Dorsey, Unit Manager, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Blue Badge in the community investment area. I just want to publicly thank Patty Escoe, my VP, for bringing this opportunity to our attention from a Blue Badge standpoint, and Don, but also something that you just said. Patty and I have worked together for the last 2-3 years now, Patty, and she's coached and mentored me, and she said, building your business acumen. Probably not pronouncing that correctly, but what she says, Helen, even though you don't have a mentor sponsor, you can independently talk, connect with other individuals here within the building, regardless of your title. You are a leader. She said that you are a leader. So I would encourage you, if you're in the blue building or not, build your network, business, professional, community, whatever your energy. Thank you, Dana, for new words. I did my assessment. Build your energy using your spoons, and it will help you, which I'm working on building my authentic brand. Thank you.
Love that.
It looks like we have another thought or question online. So let's get to that one. All right, for the panel, how does work from home or virtual work adversely impact building your brand, I'm assuming?
Well, I'm just going to take this personally. When COVID hit and everybody went to work from home, how many of you left your camera off? In the room, how many of you left your camera off? Not me. Every meeting I had my camera on, because you know what? That held me accountable. I got up, I showered, I got dressed, and I had my camera on. And people thought, oh, she's showing me out. No, that was a way for me to hold myself accountable, even though we were working from home and we were all on camera, or could have been on camera. Many of them were not on camera. And they still say it today. Patty, you're on camera. They're in their office and don't have their camera on, or they could have come joined me in my office, right? But they don't have their camera on. And I think working from home, you can still build your network. Many of us, we have, Dana, you talked about the communities. At Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas, we have employee resource groups, but we also use an online tool, Viva Engage, similar to like Facebook or LinkedIn, where we can send each other chats, but there's communities, and you can connect with individuals in that community. Now, you have to opt in so you don't get bombarded with all these community posts. But I think you can be, again, intentional of showing up, showing up for yourself and showing up for the others.
I think you can, if you're working from home and that really is going to work for the rest of your career, that's great. I think you've got to make sure you are going to become, or you already are, a very effective communicator. And ways to do that, my team is hybrid, and all our clients are like, what? And it's working. It's working for them. And it's because we've implemented several things that make sure they're having all these touch points with clients. If you've gone a month without seeing a client in person, what's going on with you? You do have to leave every once in a while. But if you're just really working at a job where you don't ever have to go to the office, you don't have to see anyone, send thank you notes to people, and they don't have to say thank you. They could say, I thought of you when I saw this the other day. I read this article, it reminded me of you. Send a text that says, I thought of you this morning when I saw this hilarious meme, right? You've got to get your thoughts out of your head and into people's interactions regardless of whether it's in person or not. And I think psychologically, we all need to be in person at some point for many reasons. But I'm not a fan of 9 to 5 anymore in the office, unless it has to be done. If it can be done online, great. But I think the people who are going to be successful at that are the most effective communicators. And those that already were introverted and already didn't say hi in the hallway, it's not a great trajectory.
Yeah, 7 out of 10 people right now are suffering. We still have loneliness going on in the workplace.
Yeah.
So I think that's real important as you're working from home, that you have that accountability buddy, as well as you're showing your face, because we don't know if we don't see you if something's going on. And I think it also helps with your personal brand. And thinking showing your hands while you're on screen is very important when you're talking. There's something about not showing your hands and talking that says I'm hiding something. So being able to use your hands as you talk, being able to get your camera up, not just your face in it, but get, and really think about how do you show up on camera? Because a lot of you, say if you're interviewing for a job, you want to be, your first couple of interviews might be online. So how do you show up from home? What does your background look like? What is it? If you don't have anything on, that tells me you don't care or something's going on, and then I'm concerned. So I'm really a big proponent, especially for my clients. If they're not online, I want to know what's going on if I can't see them. So think about that. You might think, oh, I don't look good right now. I have my hat on and I just got out of the shower. You can say that, right? I just got a shower, so I'm going to be dark for a minute, or can we talk in 30 minutes? Are you okay? Ask for permission sometimes. There's some cultures where nobody gets on camera, and it's so hard for me because I'm worried about the loneliness and I'm worried about the connection.
And one of the things branching off that too, when it comes to loneliness, connection, just self-care overall, is one of the pieces that we're really needing to keep in mind is if you're mainly working from home, that you're able to set some boundaries for yourself yet still with things like time. I'm very aware. My fiance, she ended up so I'm now hybrid where I'm in office some and at home some, but she actually called me out. She's like, Stephanie, you are working on your computer until 8 o'clock every night. You need to stop. We are disconnecting. This is not. And I'm so glad she did that because it just was such an easy transition. If I'm on my computer all the time, take it, start watching TV with it. And it was actually impacting like the relationships outside. So part of being really intentional of just like, if you are in the office, you leave the office. If you're at home, like I have like a rug in front of my office door, like my home office, that I actually do this little stomp thing, like when I'm leaving it, to be like, this is me letting the office like go. Yeah, exactly. Yep, I become a little doggo, and then the doggos are excited to see me and all the things. But so making like a little routine that actually lets you close work. And sometimes obviously that's not going to always be the case, but trying to make it at least relatively consistent of time boundaries.
Love that. All right. Well, I want to thank all of you for attending here in person and online. We appreciate you all taking the time and joining in on the discussion. I think we could have gone another couple of hours, to be honest with you. I think there's lots of great advice up here and would have loved to heard from many of you here in the audience and those online. But we also want to be mindful of everybody's schedules as well. So we do appreciate the panel coming in here, helping us understand how do we show up. How do we become and be authentic to ourselves, influence others, and also be, I would say, innovative in some of the things that we're doing. Although it's not easy to show up as your authentic self every day, I do believe making an intentional effort has many, many benefits. And so I really feel like we've got to do those things that we just talked about. Circle your calendar, evaluate what you're doing. Where's your energy being spent? And I think being intentional around that will definitely have lots of benefits for your career. I even think for your health, because then you relieve some of that stress. But I do want to, again, thank you all for that. We are, I think, going to close the broadcast at this point. But for those of you who are in the room, if you would just like to stay, they're going to walk you through some exercises and some questions, I think, around the table. But I want to appreciate everybody for joining us today online, the panelists, all of the sponsors, the great food that was in here today. So again, thank you guys so much. We're going to end the broadcast. And then for those of you in the room, we're going to continue with a little bit more.
Thank you so very much, Patty. And